You're watching SEC Saturday on Mix 104.1 and MixTV.tv, presented by CHI Memorial.
Pumpkin spice, bonfires, and Traeger smoke is in the air. And you know what that means? It's week 6 of the college football season. We're finally into October football. The dogs of Athens are barking. The Tigers of Missouri are roaring. And the Wildcats of Kentucky are purring. It's an all-out war in the SEC East for who will come out on top. The SEC West has the former kings of college football on top, along with Jimbo's Aggies of A&M. But the leader of the West will be decided today. Will the 12th man be enough today to take down Saban's defense, or will the tide roll through College Station? This is SEC Saturday, presented by CHI Memorial. And with that, I'm joined by Jason Cox, Josh Rogers.
Howdy.
What's happening over here?
It's interesting.
Yeah. Not here again this week. You know, the South Carolina fan, Tennessee is going to get beat by 14. Heupel's going to be on the hot seat. I guess he's a no-show again.
Yeah, and really disturbing here. First of all, that picture is disturbing. Now, if you listen on the radio, you don't know what we're talking about. Somehow Shelton is not here. His picture, which looks like a mugshot. South Carolina fan, Tennessee. It says Tennessee beat by 14 is what he predicted.
It was, yeah.
Last week. And Heupel on the hot seat. Jason, what do you make of it?
I mean, he's a self-proclaimed motivational specialist, and I am not motivated by that.
Can you imagine?
I mean, out there probably he's not here. He's out there looking for a new SEC team. I mean, Tennessee has disowned him at this point. They have to.
That's right.
So, I mean, I really don't want someone as negative as he is to be a Georgia fan. So, you know, we can give him Florida, we can give him Kentucky, maybe even South Carolina. So I guess he's a Gamecock now.
Well, I don't know what you're going to do to me next week. I will not be here next week. So
yeah.
That should be.
Last year we had a big bullseye for you.
That's right.
We set it on your chair.
One is around here somewhere. All right. Well, guys, let's get serious for a second here, and let's review what happened last week. Jason, I'll start with you. Tennessee and South Carolina.
Well, we were happy, that's for sure. I said on the show last week I felt like it would be our defensive front seven versus Spencer Rattler, and our front seven absolutely got after him all night long. The linebackers played great in space. That defensive line just caused him trouble all night long. He didn't have a touchdown pass. We've got a video of him last year counting on his fingers the number of touchdown passes he had. Well, he held up a fist this time because he had 0 touchdown passes, and that was so much to do with that defensive front seven. Our rushing game got going. 40 carries, 238 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. Joe Milton was Joe Milton. He was pedestrian at best, but he did his job, and Tennessee rolled. We were happy.
Yeah, absolutely, and you were 100% correct last week. You made the prediction. You said that Tennessee's front seven had to be dominant, and they absolutely were. Sacked Spencer Rattler 6 times last week during that game. James Pierce Jr., Vols defensive lineman, had 2 sacks. Heupel said that this was a line of scrimmage game. We challenged the players on offense and defense all week, and they had to own it, and they absolutely did. South Carolina struggled on offense, 2 for 14 on 3rd down and 2 for 5 on 4th down last week. For Tennessee, it was one of their most dominant games of the season after coming off of that loss from Florida, really trying to get back in the groove of the SEC. And they absolutely did what they needed to do to continue to grow as a team. They're sitting, I think I've got it somewhere, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th in the SEC right now at 1-1, behind Florida. So Tennessee's year, national championship hopes is probably over. But they still have the opportunity to be able to continue to climb that ladder in the SEC East. For me, I think that the big takeaway for Tennessee and what hurts their chances the rest of this year is Brew McCoy. Brew is a staple on their offense in that wide receiver room. To see that injury, I think I watched it twice until I watched that video rerun twice of his injury till I felt sick to my stomach and was just done with it. I know he had surgery earlier this week. Prayers for him and his family, and that he'll be able to get back out there and play soon. But Tennessee absolutely did what they needed to do this week.
All right, let's go to another game, and what a wild scene on Saturday night. Ole Miss wins basically a basketball game with the score. They defeated LSU, Josh, 55-49. My word.
Absolutely. They were down 2 scores in the fourth quarter to LSU and came back, and the final play survived that kind of incomplete pass by Jaden Daniels to be able to hold off that win. But it really showed kind of Ole Miss's, intestinal fortitude that they had to be able to continue that game. Both of these teams, listen to this stat line. When have you ever heard this? 1,343 total yards of offense and 14 touchdowns in that game. I mean, there was absolutely no defense in that game except for that last play of the game. But Dart threw for 4 touchdowns, rushed another one, 26 of 39 for 389 yards, ran for 50 yards, and was able to kind of keep that fill that deficit and be able to pull out a win against LSU last week in an unbelievable game.
Yeah, those folks down on the bayou are not happy this week. 2 losses already. This reminded me a whole lot of the Tennessee-Alabama game last year. Just a shootout, a battle of 2 really, really high-level quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels' stat line on the day, 27 for 36, 414 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no picks. He played great and lost. I mean, you don't see a stat line from a quarterback like that very often. So fun game to watch. As I kept up the score, I was on the softball field. As I was keeping up the score, I was like, man, this is a lot like Tennessee-Alabama last year. Fun game for sure.
Yeah, certainly so. And then, Jason, I'll start with you because our resident chief dog here, he was nervous. Georgia-Auburn. So Georgia squeaks out a win 27-20 on the Plains at Auburn last Saturday.
Well, I mean, anytime you go to Auburn, it's tough to play on the Plains. It just is. And they're in rebuild mode, and they'll get there sooner rather than later. But I still think Georgia's just sleepwalking through these early games. They've done it the last couple of years. They're so talented from top to bottom on their roster. But I think it's beginning to be fair to ask the question, are they sleepwalking or are they struggling, Josh? I think that's the question I have. I've got a hot take for you,
Here we go.
Steve. Taylor Swift really, really likes really good tight ends, and there's no better tight end in the country in college football than Brock Bowers in Athens, Georgia. I think Taylor Swift may show up for a Dogs game real soon. That might get him fired up. I don't know.
There's about a 10-year age difference there, but no, Brock is one of the best tight ends in the country, and the issue is that Carson Beck has not thrown Brock Bowers the ball. I don't know if that's scheme related or if that is – the defenses are really just locking down Brock because the whole year, I mean, going back to the G-Day game, which is like y'all's orange and white game, but the G-Day game, Brock was playing running back. He was playing slot. He was playing outside receiver. He was playing tight end, and so for me, I think that Georgia's struggling. If this was 3 years ago, Georgia was ranked number 1. If you remember, 3 or 4 years ago, they were ranked number 1. They started playing slow. They moved down the ladder to 3 or 4, and then they had to fight back in. The only thing that is holding Georgia at number 1 is Stetson Bennett and his arm and 2 national championships. Georgia should not be ranked number 1 as a Georgia fan. They should be probably ranked number 2 or number 3 until the other teams prove out. But you're right. I mean, it's a win and stay in right now for Georgia. It was ugly. It was bad. Georgia should be 3-2 right now with losses to South Carolina and Auburn. I mean, that's really what it should be. They are lucky. Kirby said that, we're a very resilient team. We're not going to get where we want to go if we don't get better, and that's the biggest thing. And Georgia has to get better. They have an opportunity this week to win a game against a 5-0 SEC East opponent, and I hope that they do. But I would hate to be an Alabama fan. I say this because I hate being a Georgia fan right now. Like Alabama back in a few years ago when they were so good and so great, you expect to win. Like you don't hope to win games, you expect to win games and win games dominantly. And that's how I am as a Georgia fan. I expect to win every single game that we play, and I expect to win big. I don't expect to go out there and have a quarterback that can't throw the ball down the field or a defense that gives up 15 yards every single play. And that's what Georgia's doing, and so we'll see how it goes this week. But got a long season left for Dog fans.
Could be interesting. We're going to take our first break right here, and you're watching SEC Saturday, presented by CHI Memorial. UT is off this week, but we'll come back with a lot of picks and a lot more to come right here. Stand by.
You're watching SEC Saturday on Mix 104.1 and MixTV.tv, presented by CHI Memorial.
Welcome back, everyone, to SEC Saturday, presented by CHI Memorial. And I want to go over to Jason before we continue about football. I see your shirt, and I've been hearing great things about Fields of Faith last week at Cleveland High School. And with the FCA, of course, you're with the FCA. Tell me how it went.
Oh, it was fantastic. I never heard a final number of how many students we had, but Raider Arena was full. There weren't too many open seats to be had. The initial sheet we got back on first-time decisions for Jesus, there were 14 first-time decisions for Jesus, and that number's only gone up. I think I heard somebody say the other day 30 was the current number. So, just a fantastic night. Chris Walker, that was all SEC defensive end in Tennessee, late 2008, 2009. He was our speaker, did a fantastic job of sharing the message of Jesus.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jason, I know everybody loves the FCA. It's very evident. How can people get more information about the Fellowship of Christian Athletes?
Well, it's real easy. FCA.org. ocoeefca.org online. There are lots of ways to get involved, lots of ways to volunteer. Of course, we're a nonprofit, so financial assistance is always needed. But really your prayers too. I mean, for those at home just listening, I mean, we're doing some awesome ministry in the schools, and we just need our people covered in prayer because obviously it's a tough go, but our schools love us, and we're offering some good things. So, any way you can help would be fantastic.
Hey, I will say, Austin, if you'll cut to a full screen of the chair, please. This picture was taken off of a video.
Shelton.
If you'll to Shelton's photo, this picture was taken at an FCA event, and for a video that Shelton did for the FCA last year. So that's how we can combine these two together.
Well, that's very nice. All right, so best thing you guys saw last week. Josh, I'll start with you.
6 touchdown passes by Caleb Williams from USC to beat Colorado. Really just kind of – I think he's going to be a back-to-back Heisman Trophy winner. I think that he is unbelievable. He'll be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. I think the Bears will take him. He'll be the next Justin Fields, and hopefully they surround enough people around him to allow him to be good and have a long, prosperous career in the NFL. There is talk that he might come back to USC for a final year, but – he'd be giving up a whole lot of money. But I think that, and also to see Colorado come back and lose that game by 7 after they were down, 34-14 at halftime. So the resiliency out of those young guys at Colorado, but Caleb Williams, 6 TD passes over that Colorado defense.
What about you, Jason?
Well, for me, being a Tennessee fan, it was James Pierce Jr. showing up the way he did. He had 2 sacks on the day. I heard on a podcast earlier today, Tennessee's defense had over 30 quarterback pressures on Saturday, and Pierce was in the backfield all day long. It took me back to the days of Derek Barnett haunting quarterbacks, and that's really the last time we've had a pass rush like that. And so for me, the best thing was James Pierce Jr.
Well, I tell you what, transition a little bit here to talk about Missouri and Kentucky because, Josh, these are 2 programs on the rise.
Yeah, absolutely. There's only 3 undefeated teams left in the SEC: Georgia, Kentucky, and Missouri. Who would you ever thought that would be a stat line going into the beginning of this year? But Missouri, looking at Missouri's schedule this year, they really haven't played anybody. Let's be
Kansas
completely honest. Kansas State, 15th ranked, and that came down to a final field goal kick, 60-yard field goal, I think it was, 60 whatever it was, to be able to win that game there at the end. But South Dakota, MTSU, Memphis, and Vandy. I mean, I know Vandy is an SEC school, but let's be real, they don't even have a stadium right now in Nashville. So, but when you look at Kentucky, I think that's a completely different story with them. I think that Kentucky is a team that has something to really do. Beating Florida, obviously, I know we've talked to Vandy again, not great. Vandy put up 28 points, 45-28 on that game. Akron, Eastern Kentucky, Ball State, these guys really haven't played anybody. The same as Georgia, right? I mean, let's be completely honest. But this is where we kind of get in that meat of that schedule, right? Georgia and Kentucky play today. Next week's game is the game that I wish was happening today, because next week's game is Kentucky versus Missouri. So we'll be able to kind of see really what happens there. But, I mean, could you imagine Missouri beating LSU, Kentucky beating Georgia, and then next week, the number one game, College Game Day, would have to be 6-0 Missouri and 6-0 Kentucky going up against each other. My mind would explode.
No, I can't imagine.
My mind would
First of all,
explode.
I cannot imagine that. Jason, what do you make of these two programs?
Well, Josh, let me ask you a question. Is Kentucky becoming more and more of a football school?
Yes, absolutely.
It's crazy.
I think so. Yeah, and I think that changes soon. I think Stoops is going to get a better job and leave, but I think he's the reason why. But yes, it is a football school now.
Yeah, that's bizarre. The big blue walls, what they're calling their offensive line. The running back Ray Davis is 4th in the country in rushing, 1st in the SEC. He rushed for over 300 yards versus Florida last week. Unbelievable. And here's another great stat about Kentucky. Their defense versus the rush, 10th in the country.
Yeah,
okay, so
strong.
they're doing it on defense. But for Mizzou, just a minute, here's what I would say. They haven't really played anybody other than K-State, but you can't stink at this point in the season and be 5-0. I mean, you can't. Brady Cook throwing it all over the yard. Luther Burden 1st in the country in receiving yards.
Yep.
And they're sneaky good on defense. Defense versus the rush, they're 9th in the country, which is surprising for Missouri.
74 yards a game is what they give up.
So these teams, they're on the rise right now.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, let's take another break. It's SEC Saturday with CHI Memorial. Back in a moment.
You're watching SEC Saturday on Mix 104.1 and MixTV.tv, presented by CHI Memorial.
Welcome back to SEC Saturday, presented by CHI Memorial. Don't forget, download the free Mix 104.1 app. It's a free download presented by CHI Memorial at mymix1041.com. Tens of thousands of people have done that. You can listen or watch us anytime. All right, time to get into the actual games, and we'll begin with LSU taking on Missouri. This will be at Memorial Stadium. This will be at Missouri. And let's start with Josh Rogers on this.
Yeah, when is the last time that Missouri's been ranked higher than LSU? Right, 21 ranked Missouri versus 23 ranked LSU. I'm really excited to actually watch this game. This is for many years. You know, both of us are huge SEC fans, right? And like that 12 o'clock kind of game, you know, you're like, well, somebody else is on. That's a game we can skip. LSU's going to win. I don't know this year. That Missouri defense is good. I mean, they're not Georgia good like Georgia has been in the past, but they are good. And I think that if Jaden Daniels comes in and doesn't have a great game, that LSU offense can't get started early, then Missouri's defense is what's going to keep them in this game. Burden, like you mentioned earlier, 43 receptions, 644 yards on the season. Cook is unbelievable. But that stat line we threw out earlier, 74-yard rushes allowed, yards rushed allowed so far for Missouri this year. That's where it's at. 6.5-point favorite is LSU. Game is at Missouri. Give me the Tigers of Missouri to win this game.
Listen, it is true. It is at Missouri, but I would compare playing at Missouri to playing at Miami. They're going to be playing in front of about 1,000 people, and because those people, they don't care about football there. And they've got that whole end zone. They don't have any stands there.
Rocks.
They just have the rocks, and people kind of sit around them. So I don't know that it's a whole lot of a home team advantage there. LSU is going to have the best player on the field that day, and that's Jaden Daniels. And I just think that's what matters at the end in this one. I think LSU wins, and I think they cover the 6.
And be close.
Give me LSU.
Well, a game tonight, and we're all looking forward to it, will be Georgia hosting Kentucky. This will be a 7 o'clock start tonight. We're going to have it on 99.1 FM, your home of the Dogs, supplied by Wholesale Supply Group. That is tonight. Jason, we'll start with you.
Well, I expect this to be a good game, and Josh, they better not sleepwalk because they will get beat in this one. It's at Kentucky, and that is a home field advantage.
At Georgia.
It's at Georgia.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely a home field advantage. I expect the last drive of the game against Ole Miss, Carson Beck threw the ball to Brock Bowers over and over and over again, and I expect them to do that a whole lot this week. And so give me the Dogs. They're favored by 14.5. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but give me the Dogs in a close one.
7 o'clock game is scary for Georgia fans. Our boys tend to sleepwalk through the day and don't come out firing at night. I can't do it. I got to pick Georgia. Listen, I in my heart of hearts, I want Georgia to win, but it's going to be close. After last week and seeing how they played, they're just not good this year. I mean, they're good, but Georgia by 3.
My goodness, you realize they're playing Kentucky. I mean, I don't care.
5-0
It's a
Kentucky.
football school, Steve. Football school.
Well, maybe
Kentucky.
All right, well, this is interesting, and I'll have Josh go into more about why it's interesting, but it's the Red River rivalry, Oklahoma and Texas. It's really the game of the day in the nationwide. It's at the Cotton Bowl down in Dallas. It'll be a noon game on ABC. Josh, why does this interest? My goodness, look, they're perfect. Why does this interest you so much?
Yeah, 5-0 Texas at ranked number 3, 5-0 Oklahoma, ranked number 12. This will be the last game before these two schools are SEC schools. So we wanted to welcome in their last game, get a little preview of what to expect next year in the Red River rivalry. But, yeah, this will be an SEC game next year, and we're looking forward to it. Texas is obviously ranked number 3. Quinn Ewers has been unbelievable as a quarterback so far this year for Texas. Has an awesome opportunity to be able to go to the NFL next year, make a whole lot of money for a team like the Jaguars or somebody trash like they are. But listen, I love Oklahoma. I think that in this game, I think that Oklahoma comes in. I think they beat Texas. I think that Texas has played really well. I don't think that they're the third best team, just like I don't think Florida State is up there very high either so far this year. I think that is kind of a jumble and a mix in those teams. But give me the Sooners, Boomer Sooners, to win this game.
Jason.
Good pick. This is at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, and so I would expect, even though it's probably considered a neutral site, I would expect Texas to probably have more fans. Although
they sell
don't they sell
they
it down
sell
the
it,
middle?
They
That's
sell it
right.
50-50, just like Georgia, Florida.
So there's probably no home field advantage in spite of being in Texas. I just think Quinn Ewers and that Texas football team is gritty. We saw that against Alabama in week 1 or week 2. I called them soft on the show, and they are not soft.
Yeah.
Okay, they are tough. I'm going to take Texas and Quinn Ewers to knock off Boomer Sooner in Dallas.
The SEC Spotlight game this week, and reminder, of course, Tennessee is off. They'll play Texas A&M next week in Knoxville. Alabama and A&M in College Station, Texas. That's the 3:30 slot on CBS. What do you make of it, Jason?
Well, unfortunately, I want to pick A&M in this one, but Max Johnson is now their quarterback. He's their second-string guy, first-string guy, got knocked out. He's out for the season. To beat Bama, you have to have stellar quarterback play, and they're not going to get that. And I know Jalen Milroe's not setting the world on fire at Alabama either, but you have to have stellar quarterback play to beat Alabama no matter where it's at. That's not going to happen. Give me Bama.
Josh.
Connor Wigman, Texas A&M's quarterback, he's a sophomore out there for them, is ranked 7th in the nation in QBR. Almost 1,000 yards passing, 8 TDs, 2 interceptions. Alabama's offense has not been good all year long. Texas A&M's defense has been good. The passing game for Alabama has not been what's allowed them to win. It's been their run game. Texas A&M only gives up 96 yards, averages 96 yards a game. It's going to come down to the big uglies for Texas A&M on their defense to stop that Alabama run game. Give me the Aggies because it's at home.
You know what? Wegman's not playing.
Is he not?
No, he's out for the year.
Is he out?
He's out for the year. Max Johnson played the whole game last week.
Has he?
Yep.
Does that change anything?
Give me Bama.
Oh,
That's what I think. I want to pick A&M, but
Finally,
I can't.
we've got to run here, but the Ivy League game of the week. Hey, it's Lafayette and Princeton. They say I'm going to call it Lafayette. Hello, Lafayette, Georgia. I'm going with you over Princeton. There we go. That's SEC Saturday. Austin, let's say goodbye with Shelton over here. This is all he left us right here. Chair number 2.
Here we go.
Bridget's old seat. We'll end with that in memory.
Bye, Shelton.